Well, I
No,
guess
it doesn't
yeast.
smell anything like that. That's good.
Then I know there's a problem down there, but tacos is a real big problem.
We're one of the foundation guilds on the server first, it'll be even bigger for us.
Well, speaking about foundation guilds, we do see a lot of them migrating or choosing different servers right now. We have a few that have chosen Vassburg, for example, and there are like Sorrow's Furnace has a lot. Swamp of Sorrows. There's a few others that have quite a few quote-unquote foundation guilds, and you can tell that server is going to be full. And there are, servers that just only have a few, whereas, others have a lot. Based on that, we could tell right there that we could either go on these servers or avoid them like the plague. Yes, you're right. We can't really tell for sure how the server population is going to build up on live, but there are others also who are going to go to places like Vassburg where they think, oh, the name sounds cool, I'll go there. They don't really have a community, a foundation guild to go in with. They just go in because the name sounds good. The issue we're looking at right now, though, is we can kind of predict almost the server population size based on these, again, quote-unquote, foundation guilds. Do we want to follow these people, the other foundation guilds, for alliances, talking about our prior offers to join alliances? Do we want to follow these people? Do we want to kind of go into our own little thing and build up there just by ourselves and avoid these alliances and such?
I say avoid them, just because once people see I want people to see our guild tag or our guild name or the guild banner and be like, oh, it's those guys. It's Rakkenheid from whichever server we actually pick. I don't want it to be, oh, it's that server. I don't want to just be, the guys on that server. I want to be the guild that happens to be on a smaller server. It's kind of like, I guess, the same kind of argument of what I was talking about with the emblems, of the don't want to be defined by the emblem. We should define the emblem instead. Is that if we're on these servers that are all these big guilds, then it's like we don't even matter. It's almost like if you were to, I guess, take for example the biggest PvP guild in WoW, Darmactyre or whatever, on Darksphere. If we started up a PvP guild on Darksphere, oh, it's those guys from Darksphere. You get generalized into the server instead of as individuals of a guild. Especially as games these days, when they first come out, you either have to have a really, really, really big existing name coming from a different game, or you're kind of everybody else at the start. Everybody's kind of on even ground at the start, but there's people with the big names too. So if we're away from the big names, then we're on even ground.
So you're saying that we do need to avoid these large populations, right? The other guilds and the alliances that they bring with them. Well, I have to admit, it'd make it easier for recruitment and building a server reputation if we were on a lower population server, and it would certainly help to have the queue times removed from both World v World and PvE. Our progress would be a lot quicker and be a lot easier on our members as well. The community would be a lot tighter. Sounds like you prefer the lower population servers.
Yes.
And Iheartyew agrees, right?
I do agree, to an extent. Server presence is pretty important, but he also made the point that they're not always going to be medium population servers. I would imagine after, especially the 3-day head start, server population could change dramatically. And we might start off on one server and it'd be medium population, and then all of a sudden it's going to be high population. So we got to keep that in mind as well.
When you're looking at a high pop server, it seems like primarily what you guys are talking about is going there to get into like a big alliance with the big name guilds that are out there and stuff like that. And what worries me about that situation is that pretty much you're putting your faith into an alliance, and when you have that many guilds involved, there could be a lot of drama, stuff can happen, and I'm more about placing my faith in a small guild or a player instead of an alliance like that, because if all of a sudden that alliance crumbles or something else happens, now you're sitting there as your guild. So I mean, I don't know if you're looking for like a status thing as far as the guild goes. I would say the most important thing is to focus on your guild and your own personal player reputation, and then go from there. Just looking at World of Warcraft, there were a lot of specific players in World of Warcraft who were really good. While their guild might not have been that good, or their server might not have been that good, they were able to make themselves stand out based on skill and other qualities first and foremost. And then you had your guilds that stood out, and then there were certain servers or certain battle groups that were good for a while, but eventually, things got mixed up a lot. I know Battle Group 9 was really big for a while, but eventually that fell too. And what you're left with is your guild, and then past that is just you yourself as the player. So, in terms of servers, I mean, you jump into a high pop server, you're getting into a big school of fish, anything can happen there. I think as a guild, your playstyle wouldn't differ too much from a high pop to a low pop. It's just, if you're going to be avoiding the zerg, then you just have to do more avoiding on a high pop server. But the risk versus reward is also better, because if you're on a high pop server and there's a huge zerg and you take some kind of point on the worldly world map, with your small group of people, and you just harass the crap out of them, it might have a bigger impact that way. But I personally just prefer the lower pop stuff. I think it's kind of easier to be recognized as a guild or a player that way, instead of just kind of being thrown into the big mess of people. But that's just me.
Well, I wonder, in Warhammer Online, you joined a large alliance, what I thought was a large alliance there in Order. Did they bring a lot of drama? Did your group actually mingle well, or did it work well in the end?
With the alliance that we had there, it started out as a pretty healthy alliance of about 4 or 5 different guilds. Eventually, some of them kind of died off, and really it was left with some of the guilds got absorbed into this one major guild, because we had, at one point, I can't think of the name of the guild, but there was some guild that was in our alliance that had the top renowned ranked player on Order side. So, and he would just lead fortress raids and city sieges and all that stuff. So what eventually ended up happening is there would be little groups of us from the smaller guilds, but it was mostly just a lot of the guilds got absorbed into the bigger alliance, or the bigger guild within the alliance. And then after a while, they just fell apart. There was just too many of them. There was guild drama, stuff like that, and a lot of the players ended up... the alliance just kind of evaporated after a while. You're never going to get away from guild drama unless you keep a really, really tight-knit group of people. I don't know. Alliances kind of scare me. They can be very good. I mean, we definitely had good experiences with an alliance, but being on a lower medium population server doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to not have an alliance. I mean, when we were on Prague, that was a medium pop server. That wasn't really a high pop one that I remember. And I still think we all had a good time. You were able to pick people and guilds out with no problem, things like that. There were Zerg guilds, Havoc was an Order guild, but they ended up just transferring off the server after a while over Dark Crag, stuff like that. So the board shifts a lot in any of these games, and I think what's really important is being able to adapt to it. If, in World of Warcraft, Dragonmoth died a long time ago, but for nostalgia purposes, a lot of us just kind of sat on the server instead of maybe transferring to a server that might have had, more opportunity as far as any kind of world PvP, even though the game had very little to offer. There was other servers that had stuff going on, and I think that in the sense of Guild Wars 2, we should keep that in mind. And if you notice the server is dying, bringing the server back to life is cool and all, but it'll get to that point where you see other servers might have community events, stuff like that. And really, server population is one thing, but the community on each server is really what you got to look for. And there will be those servers that'll be known for having a good tight-knit community, because the Zergs will do okay, but if your community can kind of, servers will kind of have those leaders, especially with the squad system. You'll have those people who are really good at controlling the Zerg and the battlefield and stuff like that. And those people will present themselves in the opening months of the game, and I think it's important to keep an eye on that, not just server population.
I like this. You actually brought a good point. Same thing happened on the Warhammer, the destruction side, when you guys were in that large alliance that eventually consumed the other guilds, we did the same thing, and it did bring a lot more drama and other issues that just made people frustrated. It made combat with these large guilds and large alliances a lot more. It's just frustrating. Get this, like, there was a chicken event or something. Of course, there's always RVR going on in Warhammer Online. There's always something to do in the RVR zones, being pushed back or pushing forward. You're always trying to get to the cities. There's always something going on. Well, a group of players from the Alliance, mixed from all the guilds within, got together and they just wanted to have a chicken event. When you go to the lower level zones, you turn into a chicken and you can do weird shit. So that's what they were doing. They were just fucking around one night and they're having fun. The rest of the Alliance, however, enraged. The guild leaders, emergency Alliance meeting. We need to talk about these people because they were out doing chicken shit while we were getting our asses handed to us, and fort, keep, whatever, they were not helping us. That was raising flags. They held an emergency meeting. I think I actually had this saved somewhere in a Ventrilo VRF file, and they brought it up in that meeting like it was a traitorous, it was a Benedict Arnold situation. How could they do this to us? These people that have been with us from the start, all these guilds, it wasn't just one guild, it was members from multiple guilds in the Alliance, it just, oh god, it was horrible. And yeah, they couldn't get over it. I don't know if they were just really upset about, like, we're on a losing streak in RVR. I guess they're just pointing the finger to the people who were playing chicken for a night. And this was in a large alliance, part of, full of large guilds, and really, you have to look back on it. Like, I was listening to this conversation, this emergency meeting we had on the chicken issue, and you have to look back and, like, listening to it, I was thinking, this is some of the dumbest shit. And I was actually a part of it. Why were we raising so much shit about chicken night? We had much better things to do. We could have been planning a counter offensive. Rather, we were so upset. We were trying to resolve chicken people rather than planning a counter strategy. And this is exactly what a big community, I don't know, this is the kind of drama maybe you were referring to. This is what we had on our side during that time.
You should actually go to a sushi bar, a high-rate sushi bar, and they will laugh at you.
In Ohio, they don't have
warm.
it.
Like, what's a high-rate sushi bar then? Tell me.
One that costs more than $5 for 10 people
It's not fucking any type of Japanese steakhouse would be fucking.
But you can't afford to go
There's
to
some
it.
in Columbus, Benihana's. There's Yamato here.
Then.
Answer my question first.
No, wait.
God.